Hello, hello, hello. Hi, high performers. Hi.
What's up, guys? Or ladies?
Welcome. Guys is like that vernacular. We say that in
Yeah,
the Midwest.
interregionalism. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. We have the beautiful, wonderful Abby Walla here with us to talk about how to get more confident on camera. And that, welcome. Good evening or good
Thank you.
afternoon.
Good
Abby lives
afternoon
in
here in California. Good
Abby
evening
lives
to
in
you.
Hollywood. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let me introduce you. Abby is an actor and writer in Hollywood who coaches online entrepreneurs on how to be their awesome selves on camera. She has, I mean, it's so cool. Like, I feel famous because I know you. She has been on Veep, uh, HBO, awesome show. Dear White People, is that on Netflix? Netflix,
Yeah.
right?
hmm
Yeah. And her movie called Holiday Hostage on Netflix with
Or on
featuring
Amazon, the movie.
on Amazon. Oh yeah, Amazon is hilarious. I watched it twice with my family. So funny.
Aw, that's so
So
sweet.
thank you. But also your program. Do you want to mention your program?
I do. And I was just opening up the window so I can see the comments and stuff if people have any questions. Yeah, so you mentioned that I coach entrepreneurs, business owners, coaches, people trying to build their brand who are the face of their brand to be awesome on camera. So confident, authentic, all of that. And I do that through my program, Crushing It on Camera is the name of the course that I have with my business partner, David Storch, who's also an actor and writer out here in Los Angeles. So yeah, that's the gist of it.
You guys are killing it. And if you guys have any questions about Abby's program, Abby and David's program, please feel free to ask. I can hook you up with getting set up with them on a call with one of them to talk more about it.
Yeah, and maybe by
So,
I mean, it's a little early to be like, do you want to work with her yet? We'll see. We'll see by the end of it.
well, I just want everybody to know you have that going on too. So
Thank you.
that's
I
cool.
appreciate that.
Hey, you're not up on the live in my group yet. This happens all the time. Do you see it on your phone in the
I
group?
do. Yeah, I have my
Okay.
computer open. We're live. We're
If
here. It's happening.
Cool. If you could shout out who, if they don't give StreamYard permission to get access to their profile, they just show up as Facebook user on my computer. Can you see who that is who put live?
Oh, that was me.
Oh. Okay, thanks.
That was me shouting myself out on
Well,
your
a bunch
live.
of some people said they're going to join, but we're just going to go for it. So,
Yeah, let's dive in. I mean, anybody, I mean, people can watch it on the replay. So
yeah,
I
of
always like
course.
to know where people are watching from. So if you are watching live or on the replay, let us know below where you're watching from. And also, as we go through this, if you have any questions, just drop them in the comments below and we'll make sure to cover those topics because there's so many different things we could talk about. We want to make sure that it's relevant to all of you.
Yes. So let's talk about going on camera and why is it important?
Well, it's not actually. No, it's incredibly important, especially so it's the one thing in your business if you're meant to be your brand. So if you are a coach or a consultant where basically people are paying not just for your product, but they're paying to work with you, whether that's, through a course or anything. It's the one thing in your business you can't outsource. It's the one thing you can't have your VA do or hire someone to get on camera for you. It's the only thing that it's like you have to do it. And it is one of the most efficient ways to be and most powerful ways to be building that know, like, and trust factor, which are the things that lead people to becoming buyers. So, being on camera, being able to effectively tell a story is just such an amazing way to get your audience to connect with you and, follow your journey and ultimately want to buy from you.
Yeah, totally. I know you just can't like get that feel for somebody from a post. from a story post or from any other post. You can
No.
really get somebody's energy. And I think that's what's exciting, but it's also what scares people too, right?
Yeah. And I know when
Ah,
you and I first met in person, that was a big thing, that is, um, just it takes a lot of vulnerability to show up on camera and online. There is a certain element that we can hide behind written posts and photoshopped pictures and things like that. But when you're on camera, you can't hide. It's you. And there is
no.
a lot of vulnerability in that. But that is what people respond to. That's what people love, when they get that authentic person showing up on camera. And that's why it's so powerful. But there is a inclination for a lot of people to hide, to stop themselves from being visible, because it's scary, but it's something that we need to break through.
So why do you think, because a lot of women, I did ask in one of my questions a while ago, right after I opened my group, was kind of what scares you the most? And a lot of women said visibility.
Mm.
I just want to give a shout out. Hey, Vicky. Vicky says Abby's been a busy girl today.
I think she was on. I did another live earlier that I think
she?
she was on. Yeah. This is a totally different conversation, Vicky, so stay tuned.
That's hilarious. Um, Visibility
Yeah.
is huge.
And in what ways are you seeing it come out? Is it, I know on camera is a big way, but are there other things that you're seeing that people are talking about in your group, that, like, what is the root of that fear for them?
I mean, I don't think anybody in my group has really said sort of that's vulnerable too, right? To talk about that. But I can say for me, it is fear of being criticized, fear of judgment, fear of rejection, um, all of that.
Mm-hmm. And I think, and I remember us having this conversation a lot too, is one of the biggest things. I understand all of that. I relate to a lot of it. And one of the things that I think is the thing we have to think about is, well, why are we doing this? What's our why? Like, why is this important to us? And do you feel like you have value to give? And when you start shifting your perspective away from, what do I look like? What do I sound like? People are going to criticize me and things like that. And you go, I have tremendous value to give. And if you're in this group at all, there's a part of you that believes that you do, because you wouldn't be trying to do this if you didn't feel like you had value to give. And I know some days we're like more or less confident about that. But if you're in this group, you believe you have value to give. And I think it's really important to be focusing on that, and focusing on the bigger picture of why we're doing what we want to do, not just the income, but also the impact and all of that. And then when you can really focus on that and take the attention off of yourself, I think it becomes a little bit easier to show up and be visible, because it's not about you. It's about the message that you have to give. It's about the other people. It's about the people that you can help. And I know in your case, it's like, you have a background as a therapist, you have like decades of experience, like, you have so much to offer to the entrepreneur community, especially to the female entrepreneur community. Like, it would be a shame if you hid your talents and your value from us. Like, we need your voice. And I'm sure there's so many other people here in this group that, like, we need to hear from. We need the value that they have to give. So it's like, you can't play it small by hiding, because we need that. We need those voices in this world.
Yes, that would be selfish, right? To do that.
Yes, don't do that.
You're so right. I mean, even if it's uncomfortable, there are lots of things online talking about, like, if it scares you, that means you need to do it and stuff. And I mean, I think that's true to a certain extent. It depends on what it is. I mean,
let's all have boundaries
or something. Yeah, exactly. Let's have boundaries around that. I mean, fear isn't always bad. But obviously the fear of getting on video isn't, if you get on video, you're not going to die. But I think as a perfectionist, it's like you are so hard on yourself that you pick apart every single little thing that nobody notices. And like, so what if they do? Like, who cares? I mean, we are dying for, the online space is dying for like real, authentic, uncurated, I don't even know if that's a word, but non-curated content. Like, let's be real. Like, we don't all like have this happens to me in my therapy office where I see clients. So it is pretty nice. But I work in my other office, which is a mess. And I showed that on my live today, actually, just to, I hope this makes you feel better, because like life isn't perfect, and that's okay. It's not supposed to be. And nobody can relate to that.
Yeah, I think that's really important because a lot of times we want to only show the highlights on social media. And we think that, especially as a coach or something, if we show any of our flaws or imperfections, that people aren't going to want to work with us because we're not the picture of success that they're going for. But it's actually opposite. It's when the more you are open about the challenges that you've overcome, the more credibility you have, the more relatable that is for people. Because perfectionism and seeing perfectionism on social media and all this stuff really just makes people feel bad, because all they see that and they're just like, well, I'm not that and I'm never going to be that. And that sucks. That just makes people feel bad. But seeing a post that's vulnerable and authentic and is talking about things that you've overcome, I mean, that builds so much trust with your audience as a coach, because they're going to see that you've overcome all these things and that you have the ability to help them overcome it too. You have the ability to help them fast track their goals. And so it's actually like, that's the stuff that's relatable. It's not just the highlights, it's the messy in between stuff. But then of course, taking those experiences and delivering them in a way that's giving value. So no, we don't want to be perfectionists, but I also don't just create bad video or video that doesn't have anything to say, or we're big on preparation. So always thinking about what's the value that this is going to give my audience. I'm not telling a story just to tell it. I'm telling it with some sort of a takeaway for my audience of something that they can benefit from it. And I think that's really important to remember too.
Yeah, like have a theme, have a point,
have something
be
to say.
Precise and not precise. Like have a point, like be precise. Like if you're walking down the street and you don't have anything to say, you're just walking down the street, like who cares? And
yeah, but there's so many videos, like it's astonishing. Like every day I like open up Facebook and somebody's like, oh, so I'm just here telling you there's and I'm just like, what is the point of this video? Like, why did you make this? Somebody said create videos, and so you're just talking about nothing for 20 minutes. That's not valuable content, but all of you have a skill and something to share. So it's in, finding what your voice is, what your authenticity is, and what's going to be beneficial to your audience, what's your audience's pain points, what's your audience's goals, and being able to speak to that so that they can be benefiting from your videos.
Great points. And the other thing is, like, what is the attention span of somebody watching a video online?
Very short.
I think I heard something the other day. It was like 10 seconds or something. It was like super short.
Yeah, I mean,
I can't remember, but
that's why it's important to have strong hooks at the beginning of your videos, to have pattern interrupts, things like that, to make people stop scrolling. And then why it's important that your content has a lot of value in it so that people keep staying engaged and watching through the end. And also that you are engaging so that you're showing up and that you're confident and you're energized. And yes, that goes for introverts too. And not everybody has to seem the same, but having your content be engaging so that people, when they start watching, want to keep watching, that they're enthralled in what you're saying for the value and because of your vibe of who you are.
Totally. And that feels vulnerable. Like, okay, like I'm showing up like who I am. I'm not, maybe you're not like, maybe you're calmer. Maybe you're not like doing like I'm not like doing cartwheels and shit. I'm,
And I don't expect
more.
you
Yeah,
to.
yeah. I mean, and that's okay because that's not me. And I remember on the live yesterday, Catherine said, like, eventually you're going to probably meet some of these people and they're going to be not wanting to align with you when they see, like, oh, wow, she's a totally different person in person than
Oh, like
I
if people
see
are
on camera.
inauthentic. Yeah, like
Yeah,
there are people, marketers that are like very inauthentic on camera and like project this whole like persona, and then people spend all this money to work with them and then they're not that at all. And people are like super bummed out. It's the whole like don't ever meet your
sure.
heroes thing of like how people can let you down. Be the opposite of that. Be the person that when they meet you, they're like, oh, awesome. Like you're just as amazing as, I wanted you to be. And that's the great thing is your audience will self-filter themselves out. So when you start showing up as your most authentic self, the people that should be buying from you are going to be drawn to you. They're going to love your content. The people that don't resonate you are going to stop watching. They're going to disappear. And that's fine because you don't have to be everything to everybody. And you don't want to waste time getting on sales calls with people who are not going to be a good match for you. So
Yes.
that's why being authentic, it's scary. It's vulnerable to be like, this is who I am. But then you also have to trust that that's going to bring the right people to you and repel the wrong people.
And you're actually doing yourself a favor when you do that because you're going to be attracting people who are attracted to you, which means you're going to love working with them.
Yeah. Yes.
Yeah.
And there is
Yay.
more than enough people out there that those people exist for you. We don't have to take on every client just because, we need money or whatever,
Exactly.
uh,
Exactly.
and I see there's several people who are watching
Yeah.
live and a couple of comments coming in, but would love to hear from you ladies who are watching live. Are you making videos in your business? If you are, awesome. What are some of the challenges that you're having? If you're not creating videos, what's stopping you? So if you guys let us know that in the comments, we can start. Oh, here come the glasses.
Here comes I tried. I can't do it. So Lynn says I video and laugh at my own self. LOL.
I don't know Lynn, so I don't know if that's a good thing that she laughs at herself or if it's a bad laughing at yourself.
I'm not sure. Lynn, can you share some specifics about that? And the next person, it just says Facebook user for me. I'm having some Wi-Fi difficulties on my phone,
Oh, that's
so
okay.
I can't see who that is. But she says, yes,
Elena.
Elena. Thank you. Yes, this is a huge thing to overcome for a lot of us, especially those of us that are getting older and the body is doing strange things. Ha ha. What does that mean?
So I think because earlier we were talking about taking the focus off of yourself, of like what you look like and things like that, and onto the value that you're giving. So yeah, that is something. And Leanne saying that she does have a lot of fears that she gets in her own way, and does that stop you from getting on camera at all, or when you get on camera, is it just not coming across in a certain way? Would love to hear a little bit more about that, and we can keep talking as these come in.
Okay, I would like to just give you Elena a shout out. Okay, Elena, how old are you? I'm 51. So I want to like the reframe on the middle age thing. Middle age is an awesome thing. Just say that over and over again because it is. Think how much you know, how much you've learned, how much you've been through. I am like, this is my little rant because I've gone through my own middle age thing. We need to stop. I mean, I know you're just joking, Elena, but still, I think there's probably a little bit of truth to it that we need to stop putting ourselves down for being in the, middle of our lives. It's a beautiful thing. It's not a negative thing. And nobody cares about your sagging, whatever. I mean, my neck is, nobody cares at all. We want to see your beautiful face. Okay.
Love it. I
Rant
love
over.
that. I love that. Oh, okay. So one person saying that they push themselves to do Facebook Lives and push through the discomfort, but only doing them when they feel really inspired because otherwise the energy will be off. So this is something that comes up as I'm a writer as well. And this is something I talk about, a lot with my writing coach is like, yeah, it'd be great if I could only like write when I'm inspired. But unfortunately, like if you want to finish a project, you have to write even on the days you're not inspired. And I think that's something too, like if your business is showing up on social media, yes, there's going to be days that you don't, or you're going through something and you're just not in a place to show up and be vulnerable because, the shit's hitting the fan or whatever's going on. But unfortunately, a lot of times we can't really just wait for when we're inspired to get on camera. So that is where preparation and, having technique comes into place, because this is also work, and when you have technique and preparation, you can get yourself to a place that you can create a great video, even if you're not necessarily like pumped and super inspired that day. So, we teach a specific, 4-step preparation process in our course that, involves bullet pointing and rehearsing it out loud and things like that. And it can be something that takes a matter of a couple of minutes. Once you get really good at it, it's not something that has to take a lot of time. But I will say, like, whatever your preparation process is, have one, and have one, have something that you do before you go live too, that gives you energy and, gets and focus and clarity and stuff, and gets you to the place where you can create a great video, even on those days that maybe you're not feeling as inspired, because we usually have to show up on more than just those days.
That's such good advice, because when you're prepared and when you have practiced, you can get through it even if you're not exactly like feeling totally aligned. You can get through anything with practice. I think like some people think, because I think this too, and I don't anymore, but like get on a live, like we were talking about the guy walking down the street saying nothing. I think that's not what a live means. It means in business, it means adding value, having a theme. If you're not used to being on camera, rehearsing, having notes in front of you is fine. If you're like me, you babble to stay on track.
And I'm seeing that they're following up that, they don't really have a preparation process. They get inspired and they go live. So that just doesn't give you consistency. Like that'll take you only so far. One thing I suggest is having a notebook, or, whether it's in your notepads on your phone or whatever apps you use, but having a place to track different content ideas. So when you come up with an idea that you're like, oh, this would be super beneficial for my audience, have a place where you just write them down and you start having a running list of those ideas. And then if you've decided that, you're going to go live on Tuesdays and Thursdays or something on your page, that you can then just go to that list of ideas that have come up, and you have a running list of content ideas that you can then quickly prepare and talk about. But if you're just waiting for like moments of inspiration to hit, you're probably not going to have a consistent enough presence to be able to start seeing your videos converting in the way that is going to make them worthwhile for you.
Good point. So keep track. A lot of us we'll open our notes on our phone. I know I do this, talking to my phone when I get like a inspiring thought or whatever that could be good content. Not letting those thoughts go, getting them down. So then you can go back and create a piece of it. And, lives really should be fairly short, right, Abby?
Yeah, I would recommend, interviews are longer because you go more in depth, but if you're just doing a live by yourself on your page, I would recommend 5 minutes or less for most of them. If you get to the point that you're doing in-depth trainings or ask me anythings or different types of things, yes, there can be lives that are longer than that, but for like what a lot of people are doing, which is like, telling a quick story and having some sort of value, I would say 5 minutes is about as long as a lot of people will watch until you have a bigger audience. And honestly, like when you are effectively preparing for your videos, most of the time they don't need to be longer than that.
Yeah. Yeah. Please tell me my earbuds are not about to die. I am a parallelpreneur. I have never heard that phrase before. Have you?
I have not. What does it mean?
I think it means she's working a 9 to 5 and working on
Mm,
building a business, which actually we were just talking about before we got on here. Um,
I don't see that comment for some reason. What does it say?
it says I'm a parallelpreneur. Wait, I'm a parallelpreneur right now, working a 9 to 5 to continue funding my dream. So I'm now exhausted. So this is my main problem now, physical exhaustion, as I'm a massage therapist working 6 days a week sometimes.
Yeah, that's really hard. And that's where being able to like own your calendar is really important because you're going to have a very limited time to implement all of the things that you want to be doing for your business. And this is something, you know, I know Marianne, like you still have your practice. And so that's something you have to be very efficient with your time. For me, you know, I act, I write, and do a lot of both of those. And I run 2 businesses. And, you know, so it's not easy. So I'm not going to pretend that it is, but I will say preparation is going to be everything for you, because if you have your content ideas, you've prepped, you know, bullets of what you're going to talk about, you've said it out loud, you can do your little rehearsal while you're driving or, you know, doing something in the shower, something like that. And then when you hit to go live or create a video, you're able to knock it out really quickly. You're not wasting time because you didn't prepare. So that's like a thing that happens a lot is people are like, I don't have time to create videos. And then I start digging into like, well, what's the process like when you're creating your videos, and realizing that, you know, they're not doing any kind of preparation, and then, you know, needing a bunch of takes to be creating a video. If they're doing like a pre-recorded video, or if they're doing a live, it's like nobody's watching, none of this matters, you know, things like that, and they're not seeing a return from it. But that's typically because they didn't have any preparation going on. So especially when you're somebody who has limited time, which if you're an entrepreneur, that's most definitely, we all, I would say, like whether you have a 9 to 5 or not, you probably have limited time. That's where preparation becomes everything. And so I really highly suggest, like, whether you work with us and we can, you know, have you develop a preparation process, or you have your own preparation process, just have one, because they do not need to take a lot of time to create good video.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of challenge that a little bit, you know, being a therapist and mindset coach. I mean, I think we tell ourselves, believe me, I've been there, and I can't read the name, so I'm not sure who that is, but I'll call you by name. I think that if we already kind of like are feeling intimidated by something, sort of any kind of excuse or reason or story is going to get us to not do it. And I've been there and I still do it and I understand, but I also think understanding that that is a story. So even a little bit of prep time and just going for it, because really, like anything else, you just need to practice, and nobody's going to go back and look at your old not so great videos. It doesn't matter. And like we're talking about, like maybe prep time of 15 minutes and then going on for no more than 5. I mean, it's really, you know, not that much time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Put it in your calendar and commit to it.
Yeah, but I totally get it. I'm doing like 10 things at the same time, and the exhaustion is real. You just have to like take good care of yourself and prioritize and get it in your calendar and plan. That's huge.
Mm-hmm. And I know, you know, Marianne, that because you're in the program, that you've had to find times, like sometimes you're doing it during a lunch break or in between clients or things like that. And that's where you having a preparation process is so important, because then when you just have that short amount of time to be creating a video, you can, because you've prepped for it and you know you can knock it out in that short amount of time.
Actually, it's kind of a good thing not to have a ton of time, because I can perseverate on it. Like,
that's true.
Like, okay, I planned it. I got my bullets, put it out there, and you know, I go, and I can't like overthink it because I don't have time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So there's Abby, can you read the names of the?
Oh yeah. So it was Leanne who said, "You're right. That's my story that I need to change and commit." Thank you.
You're welcome, Leanne. Believe me, I've been there.
I mean, we're still there. Like it's like just because we're talking about
yeah.
it doesn't mean that we don't have times that happens. Yeah. Absolutely.
Okay, so who's after Leanne? Abby, can you see the name? It says, yes, great suggestions. I can keep a running list of topics and ideas and then schedule.
I think that's Elena.
Elena. Cool. That's a plan. Keep us posted on how that goes, Elena.
And so what are some of your biggest challenges with video right now for those of you who are watching? Because I'm loving the comments below. Yeah, what are some of your biggest questions? Because Marianne and I could take this in so many different directions. So what are some of the things that are stopping you from creating your videos, or, you know, certain stories maybe that you're telling yourself about being on camera or creating video that are stopping you, or making your videos just not very good? So we can help you troubleshoot that. So let us know in the comments below so that we can keep gearing this towards what's going to be most helpful for you guys. And what was I lost my train of thought just there. Did you, so where should we go from here, Marianne? I know we've talked about a lot of different things. Some of what we wanted to talk about was like storytelling too.
Yeah. I think it would be good if we could talk about, you know, the arc of the story, and also how to create little enticing or stories out of just little things that happen in life, or like how to, not everybody has, like, you know, we talk about the origin story. Not everybody has like a compelling origin story, but how do you?
I disagree.
Well, yes, you're right. Talk about that.
So yes, I know that there's a fear that a lot of people feel like their origin story or their stories are not compelling. That if you weren't homeless and a drug addict and went to prison, that your story is not valid. And if any of those things are your story, yes, those are incredibly powerful stories, people overcoming those circumstances. But everybody's overcome stuff, you know, and just if it's not that does not mean that your story and your origin story is not valid. There's so many people that are going to resonate with it. It's, you know, learning how to tell it in a way that's effective, and also just owning it too, you know. And then, like you were saying, finding the story in the everyday things. So the reason that story is so important is so many different reasons, but one is that selling is really storytelling. Nobody wants to just be pitched to or told that they need something or any of that. Well, the best way to sell, you okay over there?
Yeah.
The best way is, you know, taking someone through a story where they can have an epiphany and they can feel like they came up with this idea on their own to take action, versus, you know, being like that, you know, parent that's just like, you need to do this, you need to do that. Here's all the things that are wrong with you. Instead, it's telling you a story that's going to give you enlightenment, so that you by yourself go ding, ding, like, oh, I need to take action on this, or, you know, here's something that I learned. Because people are only going to buy when they feel like it was their own idea or things like that. And this isn't just for selling, but for getting people to be following your journey. So even when you're creating how-to videos or things like that, like think of stories that can be attached to that, so that it's just so much more interesting for people to watch too. So the way, I mean, there's so many, like I could talk about story for like a week without stopping. So I'm just trying to think of distilling what's the most important elements here. One, trusting that your story is enough, it is valid, and
mindset thing.
Yeah, that is a huge thing. Yeah. And it's so interesting to me. It's typically the people that say my story's not valid, I don't really have that much to share. And then I'll start asking questions, and like they have so much to share. And it's just like shock. It's the people that think they'd have nothing to share that have so much value and things to share. Oh wait, a bunch of comments just came in. And
oh, good questions. These are
so
all awesome questions.
yeah, I don't want to lose my train of thought looking at the comments.
Okay.
That's like something I teach too, is don't look at the comments when you're in the middle of a train of thought, or you're gonna like lose it.
Yeah.
And then I just did it. Authenticity, guys. I messed up too. Yeah.
I can remind you if you want.
Thanks. So finding the story in everything. So things happen to us all throughout every day that are a story. And if you think about when you hop on the phone with your, best girlfriends or whoever, you're not necessarily just giving a laundry list of all the things that you did today. And if you are, it's probably not very fun to talk with you. But usually you're telling a story about the things that you've encountered, what that was like for you, who the other characters there were, like who are the other people, what that felt like to you. You're going to have natural ups and downs in your voice. You're going to paint the picture of what the scene looked like. I was at this place and it was super dingy. There was like this on the wall, whatever. And then this guy came in and told me this. That's so much more interesting than just like, I went to this thing and this happened, paint the picture. And so there's so many different story elements that you can incorporate, but it doesn't always have to be big stories. Little stories happen to us every single day that help teach us things. And so it's just starting to train yourself to see that and then be able to do that for your audience. And what's really important is having a takeaway for your audience, not just telling a story to tell it, but telling it with some sort of a takeaway for them so that they can be learning something from it, getting value from it, things like that. So remembering those elements. And now I can look at the comments.
Yay. That was amazing.
Okay. Oh, this is a great question. So what if your story is too intense? I shy away. This is Elena. I shy away from sharing me because it's too intense and I'm afraid it would show me in a different light or get me sympathy or have someone think that I'm using it with an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
So this is an awesome question. So I talk a ton about vulnerability. I'm obsessed with Brene Brown.
Yeah.
Who else is obsessed with Brene Brown? Hopefully everyone out here. But something that happens a lot in the entrepreneur community is what I call manufactured vulnerability, where people are being vulnerable to manipulate, to sell in a way that makes me feel gross, versus authentically sharing your story and being vulnerable to give value, to make people feel seen, to make people feel like they belong. Like, I'm not a freak because Marianne just told this story that I really resonated with and is this part of myself that I was ashamed of, but I saw Marianne tell this story, so I'm not alone and I feel better now. I feel seen. That is the power of telling a beautiful, vulnerable story versus I'm telling you the story of how I went from rags to riches because also here's my product right here. So both of them can be used to sell. One of them makes you feel really gross. So I would just say, like, with vulnerability, make sure that it's always authentic vulnerability and not manufactured vulnerability. So that's where, like, you're talking about the ulterior motive. Think about why you're sharing that, and this is where it really becomes important to have a reason of value and takeaway for your audience. If you're just sharing the story because you couldn't afford therapy or you have nobody else to talk to, not the right reason to be sharing a story on social media. You should be sharing it because there's a takeaway, a learning, something that impacted you that can then help other people shorten their journey or feel seen or feel belonging and all of those great things. So thinking about intent and having a takeaway. Mm-hmm. In terms of what's too intense, I don't know your story, so that's hard for me to say. I recently went to an event where an entrepreneur talked about very intense stuff that happened in her childhood, and it was really powerful. And I also felt like she's not in this group. I won't go into specifics about it. I also felt like she hadn't fully processed it. Mm-hmm. So there was a sense of like, it was uncomfortable, mm-hmm. but it was also really powerful, but it was like a little bit like borderline of like how she told it. So I would say it's important that you've worked through the stuff. If it's
I don't know what that was.
That was can you still hear me?
Yeah.
Okay. I've had a couple calls today and my headphones just died.
I know, mine did too.
Oh, okay. Oh, my hair just got crazy. So, I mean, Marianne can jump in on this, but it's like the whole, like, you want to share your scars, not your open gaping wounds.
Yeah.
So if it's something that, and it's okay if you haven't worked through it yet, but it just might not be time to tell that story. But we all have so many stories. We don't just have one story. We might have an origin story or the thing that led us to being an entrepreneur or starting our business or being a coach in whatever you're doing. But we have a lot of stories. And there's also one story might have 10 different lessons in it. And you can tell part of it to be sharing one thing and part of it for another thing. And you can be telling different edited versions of it. It doesn't have to be all of the stuff, but I would say it's really important, if it is something that's intense, is that it's something that you've worked through and you're not working through it on Facebook.
Yes, good advice. I think it's also going back to, you know, when we first started talking, when you were talking about, I just lost my train of thought. Oh my God. I've been doing therapy all day. I just totally lost my train of thought. I think it's important to have like a distance, you know, like you need to know when you're ready to tell the story. And I just got it back. That happens too. And like, what is, you have to get outside of yourself. And like, I think this is what you're talking about with intention, like, and that's like a heart thing, right? Like, you know, when you're telling a story and it's not processed and kind of like what you need from telling it, and just like checking in with yourself, like, why am I sharing this story? Mm-hmm. We can't like help people if we're focused on ourselves. Like, I can't be engaged in this conversation if I'm busy looking at how I look in the screen, mm-hmm. you know?
And I see she's saying she's absolutely worked through it for the last 35 years, and that's why she became a coach. So
yeah, you should tell the story.
Yeah. So it's just a matter of figuring out the best way to tell it, because we also have to remember, if it is a very intense story, like, that can be triggering for other people too. So yeah. You also have to take care of your audience in that way. So you have to be able to like authentically tell the story and care for your audience so that you're not just, you know, triggering a bunch of people or doing it in like a shock value kind of way. And even building in sort of trigger warnings for your audience too. Mm-hmm. Like, if it is, you know, like if you're going to be telling a story about rape or something like that, like being open with your audience so that if there are people who aren't ready to watch that, they can tune out, and that's okay. But there are also people who maybe have worked through their experiences too, and also are going to resonate with your transparency and all of that. So I would say it's just a matter of getting the right techniques to be able to tell your story. But I've seen so many, you know, think about TED Talks and things like that. Like, people share intense stories. Yes. They're doing so in a way that is also still taking care of their audience. So, yeah, you need to think about that. And I've had stories like, I went through this whole health thing last year, and this is not to compare to your story. It's not, and it wouldn't be triggering for people. It's not an intense story, but in terms of figuring out when you're ready to tell certain stories. Like, I wrote a post about it a few months ago, and it just kept sitting in my drafts, and I kept going back and I kept rewriting it and leaving some things blank. And I was like, and I kept being like, why do I keep not posting this? And then I realized, like, I just wasn't ready. Like, I just wasn't ready to tell that story yet. And so it's still in my drafts. And at some point, you know, I'll probably get to a more ready place. But I also was like, am I doing this for like the likes? Am I doing this for the attention? Because this is a picture of me in a hospital bed, and I know that people are going to like comment and like on that. Like, why am I doing this? And then I realized, like, I still had a lot of unresolved feelings and things about it. Then I was like, okay, I'm just not ready to tell this story publicly yet. And so it just remains there. So that's also okay too. Like not just because they're saying like you have to be visible and you have to show up and things like that. It's like if, oh, my dog, somebody was slammed the door and my dog is like about to go nuts. You know, it's okay. Like you can also keep things for yourself. And there's also some things I just don't share on social media, certain like things that just feel too personal. But there's also, because this is something that I teach, I've been like really pushing myself to be vulnerable and transparent and not just show the highlights. And I, you know, in the past couple of months, I've gone through a lot of challenges with the relationship ending and things like that. I would love to just hide under the covers, but I have to show up for my business. And so my mentality has just been like, well, I'm going to use social media in the way that feels good to me. And the way that feels good to me is by being authentic, not pretending that I'm fine when I'm not just posting the highlights when I'm suffering, but like, and the response that I've gotten is like so many people feeling more connected to me, so many people sharing their stories with me because they're now seeing, it's like giving them permission because I'm being vulnerable and I'm talking about the stuff that sucks. And not in like a Debbie Downer kind of way, like there's still like hope and positivity in there, but being transparent about things. And, you know, a lot of people then now feeling comfortable sharing their stories with me because of that. So there is a lot of power in that because, you know, not that we should all need permission to tell our stories, but you telling your story does give other people permission to tell theirs. And that's where the ripple effect of impact starts happening.
Yeah, I think that's so so profound, you know, and for women, you know, we worry, like what I heard kind of in part of that was, I don't want people to think I'm trying to get attention. I don't want to garner sympathy. We do tend to minimize our pain and our suffering. And like, it feels really uncomfortable for us to receive. And it's okay to receive.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And in order to receive, we do have to show up in a vulnerable way. Mm-hmm. But for a lot of us, that just isn't a comfortable place. And we worry, you know, will this make somebody else uncomfortable? And with the trigger warnings, that's a really, it's respectful to do that. You know, we're not all on the same journey. If you do have a powerful story about, you know, abuse or sexual assault or something like that, you know, it is important just to say, you know, this is what I'm about to talk about. Or on posts, I see trigger warnings on posts all the time, because we are all in different places. But you never ever know who is going to hear you and who you're going to help.
Yeah, and it's amazing. A lot of the people who reach out to me do not even like or comment on my videos, but then they reach out to me in Messenger.
Yeah.
So you also can't just take the likes and the comments as who this has impacted, because a lot of times the people that it most resonates with are like too embarrassed to even heart your thing or whatever. And they might reach out to you directly, or they might not reach out to you. And then 6 months from now, they're like, hey, I've been following your content for, you know, all this time. And it really resonates, you know, and things like that. So you just don't know who's watching. And that's why, you know, it's the whole like courage is contagious. It's like this, you know, I think it's just so important for those of us to just show up and be visible and tell stories. You know, that's the good way to use social media, because there's a lot about social media that gives me a headache. Yeah. But social media at its best, and this is where video becomes so powerful. Like really think, and for everybody, you know, have you ever watched a video where somebody's telling a story and you just get chills and you're like, oh, like it just like hits you and it creates a shift for you and you remember it, or the impact for it? There's a lot of TED Talks that, you know, I watch, and they don't have to be TED Talks. It could be your Facebook Live. It can be an Instagram video. It can be, you know, all kinds of things. But that you just feel less alone because it's like they got you. And this is the other thing too, is that even if somebody's circumstances are really different, we are relating to the emotion. That's what we're resonating with. And so also don't worry about having to make your content. This is something that comes up a lot, is people are like, well, not everybody's gonna be able to like relate to my story about, you know, something that's really specific, but people relate to those feelings. So it's like we relate to, you know, not feeling like we belonged or something like that, even if our circumstances are totally different. But if you're showing up and you're telling your story in an honest way that has emotion connected to it, and you don't have to be crying, but has like real emotion to it, and that could be funny emotion, that does, you know, it's emotion could be positive, you know, lighter, darker, all of those things. That's what people are resonating with, not the specifics of your certain story. It's how you're telling it, who you are, and all of that. And that's what's going to be like what we talked about earlier, because all of you are building a business. That's what attracts the best people to you. And then ultimately people buy based on emotion. So you're building the know, like, and trust factor from showing up and being visible on camera. And then I will tell you that, you know, your sales calls, which you might be someone who dreads getting on sales calls or things like that. If somebody's already been following you, by the time you hop on a call with them, it's kind of like a matter of like, when do we start? It's not a matter of like, do they like you? Do they trust you? Like all this stuff. You don't need to be convincing them of all these things. If they've, you know, if they've been watching your content and then they hop on with you, it's just a matter of like, which program, when do we start?
So I know you.
Yeah,
like you.
I know. I keep like throwing in so much information on each of these different topics, but it's like so much I want to pack into this one interview.
No, it's fantastic. I love it. It's fantastic. And I wanted to ask you how I did this little poll in the group. And we're talking about stories and how to create content and how to keep track of your content. How many times, if you're an online entrepreneur, maybe it depends on where you are in your business. Maybe it doesn't actually. How many times should you go live a week?
Depends on what your business is. I would say the most important thing is like having valuable content. So if you have 5 days worth of great stuff to share every week, sure, go live every day. But I would say like, if you're doing none right now, don't shoot for every day. Shoot for, let's start with once a week. Then let's do twice a week. See how your audience is responding. You know, I don't think there's like a one size fits all, but you know, keeping focused on having valuable content that resonates with your audience, and then consistency. So if you are working 9 to 5 and right now you can commit to going live once a week, great, do that, you know, and just make sure that that live is, you've done your preparation, it's valuable content, all of that. This is the great thing too. Even though you go live, the content doesn't have to die right away. So if you're someone, so I talk with a lot of people in Messenger, and I get asked a lot of the same questions. Sometimes instead of answering the same question over and over again, I'll just be like, hey, I actually made a video. I made a live on this. I'm going to go tag you in that video, and that's going to answer that. And then let me know what you think about it, and we'll keep talking from there. And then I'll go back to a live video that I created a few months ago, and I'll tag them in. I'm like, hey, this is what we were just talking about. And then they can watch that video, which answers that question or concern or whatever. And then we can hop back in Messenger and keep talking after that. So your videos can actually keep living on and serve more of a purpose too. So like I have one video from a few months ago. It's like people just ask me about that topic all the time, and I'm able to just keep going back and tagging people in that. So it's great. So, you know, whatever you can commit to right now, I would say do at least once a week. If you can do more than that, awesome. If, you know, but just make sure that you're staying focused on value. Don't do 5 videos a week just because somebody told you should be doing that, and then they suck, you know.
So what would you tell somebody who's an online entrepreneur who isn't doing any video and doesn't think they need to?
You're wrong. No, you do need to. It's a crucial part of we're in like the golden age of video content here. And frankly, if you're not making video, you are behind. And it's only going to get harder and harder to catch up. So I would say, don't keep digging yourself in a hole. Start now. It does take time to get confident on camera. So start now. And it's just like and it's not like do video because everybody's doing video. It's like, no, do video because it's incredibly effective. Like the things we're talking about, transfer. That's what people buy based on.
Yeah.
Being on camera is the best way to do that. And like I said at the beginning, you can't outsource it. You can't have your VA do this. You can't go have somebody else do it. If you're a coach, people are paying for you. Like you're not the only one selling. Like think of how many, fitness coaches there are or whatever niche you want to say. They're not working with you because you're the first person who thought of fitness coaching as an industry. They're working with you because they like you and want to learn from you.
Yeah.
So you just have to show up on camera. It's just not really an option anymore. It's just a matter of like, if you're going to do it effectively or not. And, so I would just say like, don't wait on it, start doing it because it does take time. Like anything else, it's a technique, it's a skill set. You're not going to be great at it at the first time. So just start investing in yourself.
Kapow! Mic drop. That was awesome. I love that answer. Is so direct and so spot on and a perfectionist nightmare.
Listen, I am what I would call, I think I'm in recovery from perfectionism, but it's something I very much have to be aware of. Yeah, right. It's something I still have to keep tabs on for sure. But it's actually, I was working with my coach and I was like, oh, this is so cool. Like I can actually hear my thoughts being different now. It's like I've worked so hard on overcoming some of the perfectionist tendencies that at a certain point you're like, oh, it's actually working. I don't have to be so on top of myself to be like, stop, you're working too hard, you're delaying things. But I think the biggest thing for me in starting a business was I was like, perfectionism slows me down so much. Like learning how to take imperfect action was probably one of the best things for me in my business because, if you're waiting for things to be perfect, one, it's never going to happen. And two, you're just slowing down all of your progress. It's just, it just won't work. It just won't work. So I know being on camera is incredibly scary, but I would just go back to what we talked about earlier, which is you have value to give. You have a message. Wherever you're at right now is enough. People love following journeys. They love seeing people come up. So if you feel like, hey, I'm not at a point where people should even care about my story, you're actually wrong. Like building all that stuff up now, allowing people to follow you on your journey is so amazing. They're going to love it. It's just a matter of doing it effectively.
I love that. You have value to give. You have a message. And I lost all those other jewels that you just watched. But
the replay, Marianne.
Seriously, we are all different. And I think it can feel like the space is so saturated and kind of like, what's the point? And it's not true. Those are actually just stories. Like nobody is you. 10 mindset coaches, every single one of them is different. They're not your competition because nobody is you.
Mm-hmm.
Nobody's you, Abby.
Me especially. No.
Seriously. And really it does humanity a disservice not to show up on video.
Yeah, absolutely. And if you guys have any last questions, I think you guys got quiet once we started being like, you have to be on. Everybody's like, I'm not going to comment anymore. I don't want to be called out. But if you guys have any last questions for us, drop them in the comments for sure. And I'm also in the group too. So if you're watching on the replay and you think of any comments, just tag me in them and I'm happy to come back and answer them. But I do feel like as soon as we started getting stern with them, they all got they were like, oh.
I gotta say though, I mean, I'm still I'll say all the time, this is hard for me. This is hard for me. And that's my own story that I am changing. And you've said to me, look, you have great stories and you need to tell them. And I think we just don't see that in ourselves. And it does take practice to separate ourselves really from our stories, to look at them in a different way. Because to us, they're just our experiences. Like, no big deal. MBD.
And it's very hip of you. No, I will say too, like it's hard for me too, because I'm used to acting where I'm provided a script and I have the mask of a character. Like, yes, it's me, but there is a layer of protection of like, I'm playing this character and I'm saying this person's words. Me now being in the online space where I am my brand, I'm having to learn it too. Because like a lot of times people are like, oh, you're an actor, you're used to being on camera. And I was like, yeah, not as myself. Like that's a different thing. So, so I'm going through it too. And I have those same struggles. And that's why I was like, I'm on this journey of trying to be more vulnerable in my stuff. And that's challenging for me to like be taking down that armor. But it's like, I can only go on so many interviews and talk about how important it is without walking the walk. So I'm on the journey with you guys too. Like, I get that this stuff is hard. But I believe in all of you. And, if you're in this group, you're in good hands with Marianne. So just keep encouraging each other. And, if you want additional support on it, please feel free to reach out to me. I have a free Facebook group called Confidence on Camera for Entrepreneurs. And thank you. We do Facebook Live challenges. We have expert interviews. We have free trainings, things like that in that group. So that's a great place to be able to practice your videos in a safe environment where you're not going to get trolled or anything where everybody's just like rooting for each other. That's a great place to do that. And then if you are interested in like taking things to the next level and like really learning storytelling techniques, how to effectively tell your story, how to be finding the story in the everyday, how to be, developing your origin story and all of the like having a preparation process that we can just give you and all that stuff, then that would be in my program, Crushing It on Camera. And we can drop the link to that. Crushing it on camera. And that's also a really supportive community. So I would love to support you guys on this, whichever place you're at in your journey. And we can drop the links to all that fun stuff below.
Yeah, absolutely. What else there was something else I wanted to ask you, but I think, maybe we could like end this on like making some kind of mantra around or like an intention to change our story about going on camera. So I think I've said a million times in the past hour, I know it's hard. You've said it. So let's making live videos fun and easy, or making live videos effortless and spicy. I don't know.
Allowing yourself to be goofy on live videos. I mean, that was a big thing with you, Marianne, is like some of your best moments and some of the videos in the group were like, you were like super goofy and fun. And so like taking that mask off, the mask is too heavy. So allow videos to be fun. I mean, think of it as connection. It's just another way for you to connect with people. And that doesn't, you're right. We put a lot of like, this is hard, this is scary. It's fun, it's easy.
So making video is fun and easy and effortless.
Yeah.
Every day, say that to yourself. You really will start to believe it. Because if you keep telling yourself this is hard, it's scary, nobody's going to like me, you will not take action. Trust me. I know, because I've been there.
I feel like I need to be taking notes right now because now I'm like, I need to redo all of my front-facing marketing material away from it's scary. No.
It's a pain point for sure, but we're more evolved and we're saying like, okay, let's think of it in a different way. And I think that's really powerful to be able to change that up to something that is going to get us to take that like first little baby step.
Yeah, and own your story. that's, I mean, so important is like own your story, share it, put it out in the world, and allow it to have impact on other people. Because that, you know, that's really what it's all about at the end of the day. Like, yes, we all want to make money and stuff, but impact, like how you can really be serving and helping other people. And if you're hiding your stories, if you're not allowing yourself to be visible, you're playing it small and you're minimizing your impact. So please allow us all to hear your stories, and really appreciate all of you tuning in. I see someone saying they got to hop off and everything, but really appreciate you all spending this time with us.
Yes, we do. Thank you so much. Thank you, Abby, for taking the time out of your busy schedule to spend time with us.
Absolutely.
We really appreciate it.
Absolutely. All right. Bye, ladies. We'll catch you.
Bye. Thanks. Bye.